The night was supposed to be perfect. My father's 65th birthday, celebrated at Denver's most exclusive restaurant, the Ironwood. Crystal light shimmered above, silver cutlery glowed under candlelight, and then the laughter began. My sister leaned across the table, mocking me for living above my means. Her husband smirked, certain I couldn't pay for what I'd arranged. I smiled, steady on the outside, but my hands trembled as I handed over my obsidian black card. Seconds later, the waiter returned. Declined. My family roared with laughter. To them, it was proof I was a fraud. But what they didn't know, the real reason that card failed would flip the entire night upside down. The ironwood glowed like a jewel against Denver's winter skyline. Snowflakes tapped the windows as if they wanted a seat at the table, too. Inside, candles shimmered against polished wood, and the air smelled faintly of rosemary and steak. My father, Richard Whitmore, beamed at the head of the table. 65 years old today, and for once, every eye was on him instead of the constant tug-of-war between his daughters. Weeks of planning secured the silver room for Dad's birthday. It cost nearly $2,500 just to reserve. Add in the chef's menu, the wine pairings, and the service fees, and tonight's dinner was worth more than my monthly rent. But seeing Dad smile, cheeks flushed with joy, made it priceless. "You outdid yourself, Elena," Mom whispered, adjusting her pearl bracelet as though the sparkle could hide her emotion. I nodded, brushing away the knot in my stomach. It's his night. He deserves it. Across the table, Clara's grin didn't reach her eyes. Beside her, Miles leaned back in his chair, the faint smirk already curling his lips. I braced myself. "Elena," Clara said, her tone smooth but sharp, the kind of voice she used in court. "We need to talk about, well, all this." She gestured around the room, at the linens, the crystal, the waiter standing by, as if we were royalty. Dad frowned. "Clara, not tonight." "No, Dad," she cut in. "Tonight's the perfect time. Look around." "Do you even realize what this costs? The wine alone probably matches Elena's paycheck." She's 30, living in a loft she can barely afford, dabbling in consulting, and suddenly she can treat us like we're Kennedys? The waiter froze mid-step, unsure whether to refill water glasses or vanish. A slow breath steadied me. "I'm fine, Clara, really," Miles laughed, low, mocking. "Come on, Elena, let's be real. Clara clears over 200 grand a year at her firm. I pull in more than 300 on Wall Street. We know what real money looks like. What's your income, exactly? You're not fooling anyone with this little Broadway production." Mom shifted uncomfortably. "This isn't appropriate," but Clara was relentless. Her voice carried across the room. "Stop pretending you're wealthy. Stop with these claims of reckless spending you can't pay. This is embarrassing." Lily, our cousin, whispered, "Caroline, please," her eyes pleading for peace. But her voice was swallowed by the weight of silence. Dad's smile had faded. He looked torn, like he wanted to defend me but didn't know how. My pulse pounded in my ears, drowning out the soft piano music. Humiliation burned through my chest, as years of being overshadowed left me isolated. I wanted to scream, to slam my glass down, to make them feel just 1 ounce of the pain clawing through me. But instead I straightened my shoulders. "I wanted Dad to have a night he'd remember," I said quietly. "That's all." "That's not all," Clara shot back. "You're using credit cards with reckless spending you can't pay. Admit it. This charade ends tonight." Miles grinned, wielding his phone like a weapon. "Show us your bank app." "Unless you're too scared." The words stung, but I forced myself not to flinch. Every face at the table was watching me, waiting for me to crack, waiting for the facade to shatter. I slid my hand into my purse. My fingers closed around my Amex Onyx Prestige card. Heavy, smooth, undeniable. I set it on the table, letting it gleam under candlelight. "Pay the bill with this," I told the waiter, my voice steady, though my stomach twisted. Clara's laugh was sharp enough to cut glass. "An Onyx Prestige, please. They don't hand those out for fun." How much did you pay for that fake? It's not fake, I said. Miles chuckled, shaking his head. Do you even know what the limit is on one of those? Do you even realize the income bracket required? The waiter, professional to the end, picked up the card. Of course, Ms. Whitmore. As he walked away, I heard Clara murmur, "Watch, it'll decline." And then what, Elena, then what? I pressed my hands together in my lap, hiding the tremor. Not because I feared she was right, but because I knew the truth, that when that card came back, declined or not, the entire night would shift forever. The silver room had grown colder, though the thermostat hadn't moved. Every pair of eyes locked on me, waiting for the spectacle to unfold. The pianist outside shifted to a softer tune, but inside the tension cracked louder than glass. Clara folded her arms, her diamond bracelet catching the light. See, Elena, even the waiter hesitated. That card is a sham, just like this dinner. Dad's fork scraped against his plate, the sound sharp, uneasy. Enough, Clara! Don't defend her, Clara cut him off. You've always enabled this fantasy. All those years, she never earned what she flaunted. And now she's about to drag us all down with her. Her words struck like knives, piercing years of silence. My chest tightened, every insult layering on top of wounds I'd swallowed for too long. Breathing slowly, my nerves steadied, but inside, humiliation seared deeper, scraping old scars I thought had healed, leaving me forsaken by my own kin. Miles leaned forward, his voice oozing arrogance. It's simple math, Elena. You rent a modest loft. You drive a 5-year-old sedan. You don't belong here in the Ironwood's private wing. Admit it, you're putting on a show you can't afford. Mom's voice cracked. Miles, that's too much. Too much? He chuckled bitterly. The bill tonight could pay half of Elena's annual expenses. And you want me to believe she covered it with consulting gigs? Please. Lily's hand trembled around her glass, her eyes torn between peace and support for me. Can't we just enjoy the night, she whispered, but her words drowned in Clara's rising volume. You're reckless, Elena. Using credit cards with mounting credit debt you can't pay. Pretending you've built something. Pretending you're more than you are. Clara's grin was cruel now, certain she had me cornered. I clenched my hands together, nails pressing into my palms. Every muscle screamed to retaliate, to hurl back the truth. Swallowing it, I held back my pride. Truth was dangerous. It carried weight they weren't ready for. Dad's chair creaked as he shifted. His voice, low and worn, finally broke through. Clara, she's still my daughter. She worked hard for this dinner. Can't you see she wanted to give me something special? But Clara only shook her head. Special, it's pathetic. You don't honor a father with lies. Her words silenced the room. Even the waiter paused at the doorway, glancing back nervously. I forced my chin high, though my throat ached. If you think this is pathetic, then maybe you never understood me at all. Clara smirked. Then prove me wrong. Show us bank statements. Income, something real. Miles lifted his phone like a weapon, the glow of the screen reflecting in his smug eyes. I'll even run the math for everyone right here. Unless you'd rather keep hiding. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Dad whispered, Elena, you don't have to, Yes, she does, Clara snapped. Because I'm done watching her drag this family's name through the mud. Tonight the curtain falls. The words echoed, sealing the judgment. The waiter reappeared, holding my Amex Onyx Prestige card with both hands, his expression unreadable. The room stilled, every breath suspended. Ms. Whitmore, he said quietly, your card was declined due to an error. Silence detonated. Clara's cackle sliced through it. I told you, declined. Just like her career, just like her act. Miles joined in, shaking his head. All that effort for nothing. Even the card knows she's a fraud. Lily's face flushed red. Stop it! She doesn't deserve this! But the mockery rolled on, Clara's cackle intertwining with Miles's low taunts. Mom looked down at her lap, too ashamed to meet my eyes. Dad sat frozen, his fork clutched like a man caught between love and disappointment. And me? I sat perfectly still, my heart a storm inside my chest. They thought this decline was the end. But deep down, I knew it was only the beginning, that the truth would shatter their smug certainty. The laughter clung to the walls like smoke. Every chuckle, every cruel note, and wrapped around my chest until it squeezed. My MX Onyx Prestige card sat on the table, a gleaming witness to my humiliation. Clara leaned forward, her eyes sharp as glass. "See, Dad, I told you she's been playing dress-up all along. Finally, the truth spills out." Dad's jaw tightened, betrayed his unease. He stared at his plate as if the salmon could save him from choosing sides. Miles sneered, his confidence unshaken. He tapped his phone against the table, each click deliberate. "All this time, Elena, I thought maybe you were just naive, but this?" He waved at the card. "This is fraud dressed as fantasy." The fire in my throat swallowed, I pressed on. "Fraud?" My voice cracked but didn't break. "That's what you think of me." "That's what everyone here is thinking," Clara said, her smile brittle and merciless. Mom flinched. "Not everyone." Her hands trembled against her lap, but her voice was too soft to matter. Lily, her cheeks flushed, spoke louder, her voice a quiet plea for fairness. "Elena wanted to give Uncle Richard something special." "Why can't you see that?" Clara shot her a glare sharp enough to cut. "Because love doesn't come with a price tag. This isn't generosity. It's manipulation, making us believe she's more than she is." Her words struck like arrows, embedding deep. Humiliation seared through me, leaving me exposed, utterly forsaken by those who should have known me best, alone in my pain. Miles sneered again. "Face it, Elena. You wanted to play in our league, but you can't even keep the lights on." "What's next? Borrowing money from Dad to cover this bill?" Dad's fork clattered onto the plate. "Miles, stop it." "Why?" Miles sneered. "She invited us into this charade. Let her pay the cost." The waiter still lingered at the edge of the room, shifting awkwardly, the card burning in his hand. The card, declined due to a temporary hold, seemed to scorch his fingers as he hesitated. I caught his glance, hesitant, conflicted. Something in it almost begged me to speak. But I stayed silent, teeth pressed together, waiting. Clara slammed her glass down. Wine splashed against the linen. "You hear that silence, Elena? That's evidence of debt. You can't defend yourself because there's nothing to defend." My chest heaved. The room blurred, their voices crashing like waves against a fragile shore. But beneath the storm, a calm current pulled at me, the knowledge that truth, when it came, would not just defend me. It would destroy their smug certainty. Leaning back in my chair, I forced stillness where chaos boiled. "If silence convinces you I'm guilty," I said, my voice steady now, "then you've already chosen your verdict." Miles sneered, his confidence unbroken. "Verdict? This isn't a trial, it's common sense." Clara tilted her head, eyes narrowing. "You could stop this right now, show us proof. Or admit what we already know, that you're drowning in debt and dragging the family down with you." Dad's hand hovered over mine, trembling, but he didn't touch. He didn't dare. His eyes begged me to speak, to defend, to explain. But I held my tongue, because explanations are wasted on those who've already judged you. The silence stretched. Even the piano outside faltered into a discordant note, as though the music itself recoiled from the scene. Finally, the waiter stepped closer. His voice wavered, but his words were clear. "Ms. Whitmore, Mr. Graves would like a moment with you in private. He asks if you could step aside." Every eye followed me as I rose. Clara's scoff followed too. "There it is. She's going to beg the manager to let her slide. Pathetic." I met her gaze, unflinching. "If believing that comforts you, keep believing." For the first time that night, she faltered. Just a flicker, but enough. I walked toward the door, each step heavy, each step pulling me closer to the storm that would soon turn on them. Because the decline wasn't my downfall, it was the flame. The corridor outside the silver room hummed with faint jazz and the clatter of plates. Away from my family's piercing stares, the air felt lighter, though my chest still burned. The waiter guided me toward a polished oak door, bowing slightly. "Mr. Graves will see you now." Inside, the manager stood tall. Nolan Graves, 50-something, his tailored suit crisp, his silver hair immaculately combed. He wasn't just a restaurant manager tonight, he was the gatekeeper to my redemption. "Ms. Whitmore," he began, his voice low, respectful. "I owe you an apology. Your card was not declined for lack of funds." It was flagged because the Ironwood currently has an unsettled balance with Summit Edge Consulting. His words sliced through the fog of shame, leaving silence in their wake. I blinked. "The Ironwood owes me?" "Yes," he confirmed, consulting a tablet. "Last month's technology upgrade package, contracted for $420,000, remains under a bank verification error. Until it clears, our system automatically restricts transactions linked to your corporate account." Relief stung, followed by anger as years of being dismissed fueled my resolve. Clara's scoff still rang in my ears, every insult echoing. They thought this decline proved I was nothing. Instead, it proved I was more than they could imagine. Mr. Graves's gaze softened. "I realize this has placed you in an uncomfortable position. Allow me to resolve it immediately. Tonight's dinner will be comped against the outstanding balance." Steadying myself, I stood firm. "No, not yet. Let them believe it a little longer." His brows rose, but he nodded slowly, as though understanding the power in timing. For a moment, silence filled the room. I breathed it in, steady now, no longer drowning. "When you come back in, you'll explain, but not to me, to all of them." "Of course," he said. I turned, hand on the doorknob, pausing. "One more thing. Bring the receipts. Dates, contracts, signatures. They don't just need words, they need proof." His lips curved into a faint smile. "Very well." Back in the silver room, the storm still raged. Clara lounged in her chair, her grin triumphant. "Took you long enough," she sneered. "Begging the manager for mercy," Miles laughed, his phone still glowing. "Checking if they'll let you wash dishes to cover the bill?" Their voices dripped with venom, but steady steps carried me back, each one echoing against the polished floor. I sat down, folding my hands neatly in my lap. "If assumptions make you feel powerful," I said quietly, "enjoy it while you can." Clara leaned forward, smirk widening. "Still pretending you're calm? Still clinging to your little act?" The door opened again. Mr. Graves entered, tablet in hand, his presence commanding silence. He bowed slightly to the table. "Forgive the interruption. I must clarify a misunderstanding." Clara rolled her eyes. "Here we go." Mr. Graves's voice cut cleanly. Ms. Whitmore's Amex Onyx Prestige card was declined not for insufficient funds, but because the Ironwood owes her company, Summit Edge Consulting, a balance of $420,000. Our accounting department flagged a bank verification error which triggered the decline. The room froze. Dad's fork slipped from his hand. Mom gasped. Lily's eyes widened, darting to me with quiet allegiance. Clara's grin cracked, faltering. Miles's phone slipped, his jaw clenching in shock. Mr. Graves continued, calm and certain. "This dinner is covered, the least we can do to settle our debt." He placed the tablet on the table. Rows of receipts glowed on the screen, dates, contracts, signatures. Receipts that silenced doubt more effectively than any speech ever could. For the first time all evening, their laughter crumbled. The silence weighed heavier than the chandeliers above us. Mr. Graves's words lingered in the air, and the tablet he'd placed glowed like a beacon of truth. $420,000? Receipts, signatures, contracts, all tied to me. Claire's lips parted, but no sound came. Miles's phone dimmed in his hand, his jaw still clenched. Dad turned to me slowly, eyes wide. "Elena, what does this mean?" I folded my hands, steady now. "It means this dinner was never about what I could or couldn't afford. It means the card declined because this restaurant owes my company nearly $500,000. Mom gasped, covering her mouth. "Your company?" "Yes," I said, letting the word hang. "Summit Edge Consulting, the firm I founded 5 years ago." Miles's laugh was hollow. Consulting? Don't exaggerate. You're a freelancer with a laptop. I met his gaze. A freelancer doesn't manage 150 full-time employees and 400 contractors. A freelancer doesn't design logistics platforms for Fortune 500 clients. And a freelancer doesn't generate $36 million in revenue last year, 52 projected this year. The room reeled. Dad blinked hard, trying to process. Clara's knuckles whitened as she gripped her glass. I told you she was lying, Clara spat, though her voice trembled. She's fabricating numbers. Mr. Graves cleared his throat, lifting the tablet. These contracts are with Summit Edge. We've confirmed the figures through our own accounting. The color drained from Clara's face. Lily leaned forward, her voice soft but resolute. I knew it. I knew you weren't reckless. You were just quiet about your success. Her eyes met mine with quiet allegiance. Dad's shoulders slumped, tears gathering. All this time you carried this alone? My throat tightened. Yes, because I wanted you to love me for who I am, not for what I've built. I didn't want to be measured by numbers or compared to Clara and Miles. I wanted to be just Elena. The words cracked something in the room. Mom's tears spilled freely now. Clara stared at me, torn between envy and disbelief. Miles tried again, desperate to reclaim ground. If you're so successful, why the modest loft? Why the old car? Why hide? I steadied my voice. Because wealth isn't my identity, I don't need penthouses and sports cars to validate me. My work speaks for itself. And tonight, I wanted my father's birthday to speak louder than any contract I've signed. Dad's hand reached across the table, trembling, and this time he touched mine. His voice broke. Elena, I'm so proud of you. The words pierced deeper than any insult Clara had thrown. Pride, love, recognition, it felt like air after drowning. Clara shook her head, her voice brittle. You let me humiliate you. You let me call you reckless. Why? I looked at her, my sister, who had always measured me by what I wasn't. Because sometimes silence teaches louder than words. And sometimes letting people underestimate you is the sharpest weapon you'll ever carry. Her eyes flickered, uncertainty creeping in for the first time. Mr. Graves inclined his head politely. Everything has been arranged. Enjoy your evening. Then he departed, leaving the weight of truth behind him. The silver room was silent again, but it wasn't the silence of accusation anymore. It was the silence of reckoning. For the first time, they weren't mocking me. They were seeing me. The air inside the silver room shifted. What had once been filled with derision was now heavy with disbelief. My family stared at me as if I were a stranger they'd just met. Dad's eyes glistened, his voice trembling. $36 million last year, 52 this year. My daughter did that. A small nod escaped me, but the gesture felt hollow. Numbers couldn't capture sleepless nights, failures, or the bruises no one had seen. Mom's hand covered her chest. Why didn't you tell us? Because telling them would have changed everything. Because I wanted to be their daughter, not their trophy. I kept quiet, my voice raw but steady, because I wanted to be loved for who I am, not for what I earn. Clara's voice, sharp with betrayal, sliced through. You let me lecture you, you let me shame you, and you sat there while I looked like a fool. Her words pierced, fueled by envy. Meeting her glare, I answered, I wasn't smug, I was silent, there's a difference. Miles sneered, his composure cracking. You could have corrected us any time. Why hide? People with nothing hide, not people with millions. My jaw tightened. People with scars hide too. When you've been doubted your entire life, when every effort meets suspicion, sometimes silence feels safer than explanation. Humiliation had carved me long before this night. The loneliness of being underestimated by my own family had shaped the walls I built around myself. Clara's face flushed, her voice trembling. All these years, I thought I was the accomplished one. The lawyer, the one with status? And now you tell me you've surpassed me 100 times over? Her words cracked the armor she wore. Beneath her arrogance flickered fear. Dad reached across the table, his hand warm on mine. Elena, I'm sorry. I should have asked more, listened more. I should have believed more. Mom nodded, tears spilling. We thought you were struggling. We whispered worries behind your back. We never knew. Remorse filled the room, but it didn't erase the years of isolation. I never wanted pity, I admitted, voice low. I didn't want false judgments. I wanted peace. So I built my life quietly, even if it meant being misunderstood. Lily leaned forward, her voice firm, though her hands shook. I understand. You taught me tonight that silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's strength. Her words steadied me more than I expected. She was young, but she saw me, not the company, not the revenue, just me. Clara scoffed, her pride clinging. Don't turn this into some noble act. You humiliated us. You made me the villain. I held her gaze. I didn't make you mock me. You chose that. I simply chose not to stop you. Her face burned crimson. She wanted to fight, but her weapons dulled against truth. Across the table, Miles shifted, his earlier arrogance unraveling. His fingers tapped nervously against his phone. So you've been running Summit Edge Logistics Consulting all this time? While we laughed behind your back? His tone wavered between disbelief and reluctant respect. Dad exhaled, the weight lifting from his chest. No, Miles, this is real. More real than any false judgments we've made tonight. The silver room stilled again, but it wasn't cruelty now. It was reckoning, an uneasy recognition that the ground beneath them had shifted forever. And in that reckoning, I understood. Forgiveness wasn't a gift to hand out freely. It had to be earned. Clara's chair scraped harshly against the polished floor as she stood. Her breath came quick, her cheeks flushed crimson. Do you think this makes you better than me? The question cracked across the room, jagged and raw. I kept my voice calm. This isn't about better, it's about truth. She slammed her hand against the table, rattling the silverware. Truth? You've been sitting there letting me look like an arrogant fool. You wanted this. You wanted me humiliated. No, I said, my tone steady. You humiliated yourself. Her eyes blazed. Don't twist this, Elena. I've worked my entire life. Degrees, promotions, cases won. And you? You hid in shadows, then suddenly you parade around numbers like banners. Do you know how small you've made me feel tonight? Her words stung because they revealed what she'd never admitted, envy. Dad's voice cracked. Clara, enough! No, Dad, she snapped, tears cutting down her face. You don't understand. I've always been the one. The strong one, the one you bragged about. And now I'm standing here eclipsed by the sister I mocked. Her confession silenced even Miles. He sat rigid, his jaw tight, the glow of his phone forgotten. Mom reached out. Clara, no one is eclipsed. You're both our daughters. But Clara shook her head violently. Don't you see? She wins. I lose. That's the story now. The pain in her voice dragged me back years, to every comparison, every whisper that I wasn't enough. For once I saw it wasn't just my burden. It was hers too. Clara, I said softly, this was never a competition. I never wanted you to feel small. She laughed bitterly, but it cracked in the middle. Then why does it feel like that? Because success is cruel like that. It shines on one and leaves the other in shadow. I breathed deeply, choosing my words. I built Summit Edge Logistics Consulting not to outshine you, but to survive. I clawed my way up because I was tired of being dismissed, tired of feeling invisible. This isn't victory, it's survival. Her hands trembled. And where does that leave me? Where you've always been, I said. Accomplished, respected, loved, my success doesn't erase yours. But your resentment could erase us both. Her chest heaved, her anger tangled with grief. For a heartbeat, her eyes softened, almost childlike. Lily's voice, barely above a whisper, carried across the table. Clara, she's still your sister. She's not your rival. The words broke something. Clara's shoulders sagged, her fists unclenched. For the first time, she looked less like an adversary and more like a woman cornered by her own pride. But her voice, though weaker, still carried a sting. You asked me to accept this? To just smile while the world praises you? I held her gaze. I don't ask for smiles, I ask for honesty. If you can't celebrate me, at least stop tearing me down. That's the only way forward. The room pulsed with silence, not cruel, not mocking, but heavy with truth. Dad rubbed his temples. Both of you have carried too much. This family doesn't need rivals. It needs daughters who can stand together. Clara wiped her cheek roughly, avoiding my eyes. I don't know if I can. My chest ached, but my voice remained firm. Then try. Forgiveness isn't instant, it's earned, and tonight is where we start. Her breath hitched, a battle still raging inside her. But at least now the walls were cracked. The storm inside the silver room finally eased, though tension still lingered like smoke after a fire. Clara sat stiff, her eyes downcast, fists unclenched but not yet open. Dad broke the silence first. His voice wavered but carried weight. We've hurt each other tonight, some of it out of pride, some of it out of fear. But family isn't measured in victories or losses. Mom reached for both of us across the table. Clara, Elena, please, your father is 65 tonight. This was supposed to be about him, about love, not rivalry. Her words softened the air, but Clara stayed frozen, her pride fighting her grief. I steadied my voice. I never wanted tonight to be about competition. I only wanted Dad to feel celebrated. Dad's eyes shone. And you gave me more than I ever dreamed. Elena, the man who raised you in a modest home, never thought his daughter would one day be building logistics platforms for Fortune 500 companies or planning the Western Innovation Forum, and yet here you are. He squeezed my hand, his warmth a quiet anchor. Mom's tears spilled freely. We should have been asking questions, not making assumptions. We let distance grow between us. Her words cut deeper than Clara's insults. Assumptions from strangers were one thing. Assumptions from family left wounds harder to heal. Lily leaned in, her voice steady. You can fix it, it's not too late, but it starts with truth, not envy. Her simple wisdom shifted the air again. Clara blinked, eyes darting between me and our parents. I don't know how to undo this, she whispered. You don't have to undo it, I said gently. You just have to start again. Her lip trembled, the armor cracking. Miles finally spoke, his arrogance gone, replaced with unease. I misjudged you, Elena. I thought you were pretending. I see now I was wrong. The admission stunned me more than Clara's rage. For once, he sounded human. Dad nodded firmly. It takes strength to admit that. Tonight showed me that strength isn't only in building companies or winning cases. It's in admitting when we've failed each other. Clara finally looked at me, her eyes wet but defiant. You asked me to try, but how do I stand next to you when you've built so much more? Her words landed heavy, but I breathed slowly, steady. By standing as my sister, not my rival, my success doesn't erase yours unless you let envy write that story. The words seemed to settle into her. Not acceptance, not yet, but reflection. Mom clasped her hands together. I want this family whole. I don't care about numbers or titles. I care about the laughter that used to live in this house. Her plea touched something raw in me. I had hidden so long, not just for myself, but to protect them from changing how they saw me. Yet in hiding, I had also built distance. I want that too, I admitted. But forgiveness takes time. Tonight we take the first step. Dad raised his glass, his hand still trembling. To steps forward, to daughters who are different, but both mine. And to the family we will choose to rebuild. We raised our glasses, though Clara's hand hesitated before lifting. The crystal clink was softer than before, but real. And for the first time that night, the warmth at the table felt genuine, not perfect, not healed, but alive. The glasses lowered, but the air still trembled with unspoken words. For the first time that night, their faces weren't twisted in doubt. They were watching me, waiting, not mocking. I cleared my throat. There's one more thing I need to share tonight. Dad's brows rose, cautious but curious. More? Yes, I said, steady now. Tonight was meant to celebrate your 65th birthday. But this dinner, this was just the beginning. I've been planning something bigger, something you truly deserve. The room stilled. Clara's eyes narrowed, suspicion flickering again. Miles leaned forward, wary. Mom pressed her hands together, hope glimmering through her tears. Dad shook his head gently. Elena, tonight is already more than enough. I smiled faintly, not for me and not for you. Next month, I've reserved the Centennial Hall downtown. We'll host a celebration of your retirement, 40 years of service as an engineer. I've already secured a jazz quartet, the same group you used to play on vinyl. I've arranged catering from your favorite steakhouse, and I've ordered lilies, Mom's favorite flower, to fill the room. Dad blinked hard, his throat tightening. You planned all this? Yes, and it won't be for just us. I've invited your old co-workers, your friends from the neighborhood, even the crew from your first project site. 100 guests, all there to honor you. His hand trembled against the tablecloth. He whispered, I don't know what to say. Say nothing tonight, I told him gently. Just let me give back a fraction of what you've given me. Mom's tears spilled again. You thought of everything. I thought of him, I replied. Because my success means nothing if I can't share it with the man who taught me resilience, who told me when I was 10 years old that problems are just puzzles waiting to be solved. Dad covered his mouth, shoulders shaking. For once, the man who had carried the weight of our family looked small under the tide of emotion. Clara shifted uncomfortably, her pride battling something deeper. You planned this in secret? Yes, I admitted. Because surprises are sweeter when they come from love, not from spectacle. Lily's eyes shone. Uncle Richard, you're going to have the party of the century? Even Miles couldn't summon a sneer. His voice was quiet, almost reverent. Centennial Hall, that's no small thing. Nothing about this is small, I said firmly. Not the venue, not the music, not the meaning. It's a milestone you deserve. The receipts weren't just money tonight. They were memories, details, care woven into every choice. The kind of proof that mattered most. Dad finally lowered his hands, his eyes wet. Elena, I never needed riches from you, just love. But this is love, poured into every detail. His voice cracked and the sound broke something inside all of us. Even Clara's eyes softened, though her lips pressed tight, resisting the pull. Mom reached for her, whispering, Don't fight it, Clara. This isn't about who wins, it's about who we are. Clara looked away, but her silence no longer carried contempt. It carried weight, reflection, the first fragile step toward acceptance. I raised my glass once more. To Dad, to his legacy, to family, not perfect, not easy, but worth fighting for. This time, every glass met mine. The clink rang true, fragile yet powerful, like a promise hanging in the air. We left the ironwood beneath a sky brushed with Denver's winter stars. Snow clung to our coats, the cold sharp but cleansing. For the first time that evening, no one rushed ahead or lagged behind. We walked together, quiet, steady, like a family relearning its rhythm. Dad's hand rested on my shoulder. Elena, you gave me more tonight than I ever dreamed. Not the dinner, not the hall, not even the company you've built. You gave me truth. His words sank deep, warming the spaces shame had once filled. Mom linked arms with him, her voice gentle. And you reminded us that love can't be measured by numbers, only by presence. I nodded, though my chest still ached. Presence is the hardest gift to give when you're afraid of being seen. Clara walked a step behind, her silence no longer hostile but fragile, uncertain. She finally spoke, her voice breaking. I don't know how to stop resenting you, but I don't want to lose you either. The confession cracked me open. Then start there. You don't have to forgive me tonight, just choose not to hate me tomorrow. Her tears glistened in the lamplight. For once she didn't argue, she only whispered, I'll try. That was enough. Miles exhaled, shoulders slumping. Guess we've all been wrong in our own ways, some louder than others. Even Lily laughed softly, her voice steady with hope. Families aren't perfect, but they're worth fighting for. The wind swept through us, but it carried something lighter now, like the weight had shifted, leaving space for healing. As I looked at them, my father humbled, my mother softened, my sister fractured but trying, and my cousin still believing, I felt a truth settle deep. Revenge had never been the point. The point was revelation. That sometimes the sharpest justice isn't shouting or proving others wrong. It's living fully in your truth until no one can deny it. When they doubt you, when they call you reckless, when they laugh at your silence, let them. Because silence has a way of ripening into proof. And proof, when it comes, will speak louder than 1,000 defenses. Don't waste your life chasing validation. Build quietly, endure patiently. And one day your truth will stand taller than their false judgments. That's the real revenge, not bitterness, not destruction, but revelation. We reached the cars, the snow crunching beneath our steps. Dad pulled me into his arms, his voice thick. For 65 years, I thought I knew every lesson. Tonight you taught me the most important one: never underestimate the quiet child. I held him close, whispering, and never stop believing in your own. The night closed around us, not with laughter or mockery, but with something deeper, recognition. And maybe that's why you're still here listening. Because a part of this story isn't just mine, it's yours. Maybe you've been doubted. Maybe you've carried silence like a burden. Maybe you've been waiting for the moment when truth speaks louder than ridicule. If so, don't carry it alone. This is what we do at Heartless Revenge. We tell the stories that cut deep, the ones that remind you scars can become strength and silence can turn into power. If tonight's story stirred something in you, let it be more than a feeling. Let it be a step. Tap subscribe, press like, and walk with us into the next story. Because here at Heartless Revenge, no one carries their silence alone.